Today, I wanted to talk about building and nurturing relationships. That could be with your friends and family, or with your clients, or whoever you want. I'm going to demonstrate a process using Apple Notes, but you can follow along with pretty much any other app, including Microsoft Word, if you want it. The benefit of using Apple Notes is that it allows some automation, which I'm going to demonstrate at the end of the video, which is going to make your life much easier. So, having said that, let's get started. When I talk about building relationships, I normally mean three things. The first one is to seek meaningful contacts. What I mean by that, there are lots of ways of interacting with people. And at the top of the list, there is a face-to-face interaction. That means having a chat with one of your friends over a coffee, or meeting a client face-to-face in a meeting, going to cinema together. I mean, do an activity that involves being in the same place at the same time. Old style. There is nothing that beats that. Failing that, you have one step below having a standard phone call or maybe a video call where you can still have a one-to-one relationship, although not from the same place. And if that fails, then you have everything else, including messaging, including social media, including email, and any other channel. But make no mistakes, especially when it's time to build a relationship from the ground up, meeting face-to-face is just unbeatable. The second thing to build relationships, which is probably the most important, is continuity. The ability to progress a conversation as if you had it yesterday, when in reality it happened maybe 6 months ago. There was a famous book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, it was published almost 90 years ago now, which talked about how important it is to talk about things that matter to the other party. So if you're talking to a friend of yours, your ability to allow them to talk about themselves will be seen as a sign of you being an interesting person. This is really counterintuitive, but it's definitely what happens in these sorts of conversations. Now, when you're talking about friends, you don't have to fake interest. I take for granted that you're interested in what they do and what they say. But on many occasions, it's a simple passage of time between phone calls or meetings, which could be months, that will make you forget what they said. This is why it's so important to actually record elements of any conversation or interaction you have with your friends so that you can pick those conversations up from where you left off. And that's where Apple Notes comes in because of its ability to record information, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. So this is the way to set up your contacts folder. You just create a folder in Apple Notes. In my case, I called it contacts. And then you start creating one single note for every person you have an interaction with. So in this case, I've created one for this guy called Tim Cook, who on the 28th of February 2024, that was a Wednesday, I normally record the date and the day, he called me to ask for suggestions on what to develop next on Apple Notes. So I've recorded the details of this conversation. So the next time we talk, I will know exactly where to pick up from. The other interesting thing is that, let's say, this note here, Alice Bell, I called her on the 1st of March 2024, it was a Thursday, and we discussed about her upcoming job interview at Apple. So I want to give her a call back in a couple of weeks just to know how it went. This is something that I would normally remember when it comes to friends, but just in case I forget, I created a checklist item here that says call her on this specific date. And by the way, when you input a date in Apple Notes, the app will pick it up as a potential date for an event. So you can click on it and create an event that you add to your calendar, which may be useful to remember things. Another interesting thing is smart folders. In Apple Notes, as you can see, I've got a follow-up folder here, which is a smart folder. It will automatically pick up every note that I have in my contacts that have an open action point. So in this case, for example, the action to call her back, which is unticked, will be picked up by the follow-up smart folder, and it will show it here. So I know that if I see a note here, there is an action point, something that I have to do for that person. And I'll give you another example of the way it works. So in my contacts, let's say I've had a conversation with Lionel Messi, who called me to ask for some suggestions on how to retire early. And of course, I can give him lots of suggestions. So I'm going to take another note, create a checklist, and the note will be call him back with a financial plan for early retirement. And because I've created this checklist item here, it will now show up in my follow-up folder. There you go. So I know that there is an open item here. To create a smart folder, you go to New Folder, you give it a name, you check the Make into Smart Folder option, and then you can set all the different filters. So to give you an idea of what filters I have in this Smart folder, if I click here on Edit, this will pick up all the notes that match all of the following criteria. The first one is that there needs to be a checklist which is unticked, and the second is that the folders the notes will come from is only the contacts folder. So any other open items that I have across Apple Notes won't be picked up. And when I click OK, it will then automatically pick all the notes that have open points. And if I go into a note, and let's say that I've called Lionel back, and I check off this item, it will, in a second, disappear from this list. If I go back to follow up, only Alice is there because there is an open item. The third element to build relationships is a very small one, but it's actually a very important one. And it is to take the initiative. Now, it feels like a very small thing to do, but if you think about it, there are lots of relationships that fail because neither party makes the effort to progress it. It's a very typical situation where people think, if that friend doesn't call me in 6 months, well, why should I call them? But in reality, if you do, your relationship will progress to a point where it becomes much more meaningful also for the other person, and they will start being proactive. So put the effort in. In the next section, I'm going to show you how you can automate some of these aspects. For example, how you can set up reminders and how you can get easily elements of continuity that will help you a lot in having those conversations and making the next steps in your relationships. Let me show you how. So I'm going to show you this little automation that I've created on my iPhone, which basically speeds up all the steps in my process to record information about my interaction with contacts or clients or friends. I've created it using shortcuts on iPhone, and I will share the link to this shortcut, absolutely free of course, in the description below this video. Let me show you how it works. So let's say I have had a chat with someone and I want to create a contact note or update an existing one. I click on this little icon. It will ask me who I want to make a note about. Let's say it's this person. I want to add a little note about our conversation, and let's say that she was about buying a new TV for her new flat. I click on done. Then the automation asks me whether I want to set a reminder. Maybe I want to call her back, so I can set a reminder. The reminder will be to call this person. Maybe I can add some notes around ask about the new TV. I click on done. It asks me when I want to be reminded. I say at a time, and maybe I'll do it in a week. So let's say 8th of March. I click on done. Now, the app is, on this particular occasion, which is the first time you use it, is asking me for a series of permissions, and this is just for privacy, but if you click on always allow, you can bypass all of this next time. But I'm going to say allow once just to show you. In this case, allow once, I'm allowing everything. And now look what happened. It has created a note with the name of the person, the date we've had our conversation, and the note that I've created. And as you would imagine, it has placed everything into my contacts folder. So if I click on this one now, you can see that the note is here and it's the notes that I typed. But more interestingly, it has also created a reminder. So if I go to my list of reminders, and if I access my contact folder, you can see that it has created a reminder not just to call her and ask about the TV, but it's also included the last call's notes, which could be anything that we've discussed. And this is very useful because at the time that I selected, so in a week, I will be reminded to call her, and the notes about our previous conversations and maybe the stuff that I want to continue talking about will be immediately there in the reminder. And the same thing happens if you select to create an event on the back of a note that you've created. The note is also able to pick whatever previous notes you had and add additional information to the top of the note. I'm going to show you. If I click on the contact note, I pick the same person, and I say that this is a new note. I can, let's say I want to, I'm not going to set reminders this time. This is now asking me whether I want to delete the old note, which is something that I can do. So I'm going to say delete. And then I need to allow everything because I'm only allowing things once. As I said, if you click always allow, it will stop asking these things in the future. Allow once. And now this is what happened. It has taken the old notes and it has added at the top that we had another conversation on this date, which is basically the same as the previous one because I'm recording everything now. And this is my additional note. So as you can see, in just a few clicks, I've created a history of our interactions, and every time I can refer back to this list to inform my next conversation with my friends or clients or whoever. So we're almost at the end of this video. There are still 2 things that you need to do now. 1, like this video and subscribe to this channel. But jokes aside, the second thing is more important. Start implementing these principles that we just discussed right now. Pick up the phone, pause this video, and call one of your friends. Maybe tell them to subscribe to this channel. For now, no, this is all. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.